Alright, here's a quick guide for EVing competitive Pokemon. Basically, there are three types of stats: attacking stats, including physical attack and special attack; defensive stats, including defense, special defense, and hit points; and speed. 90% of the time, your Pokemon will fall into one of two cases, either attacking Pokemon, sweepers, or defensive Pokemon, tanks. In general, sweepers want to have max speed and max attack, and tanks want to have maximized defenses. Optimizing attack. This is usually pretty simple. Usually, sweepers will only focus on one type of attack, either special or physical. Simply dump all the EVs into the attacking stat that corresponds to what type of attacker it is. In some cases, however, you're going to have a sweeper that will have both physical and special moves. These so-called mixed sweepers require a little more attention, as you don't have enough EVs to maximize both types of attack. In these cases, you have to consider which attack style is more important. Usually you'll find that one is more powerful or generally more useful. Your goal should be to maximize this attack. What to do with the other attack style? Well, in general, it's there for a specific reason, to counter a specific group of Pokemon that can't be damaged with the first style. In these cases, you should give just enough EVs on the off style to deal with this threat. For example, if you have a Thundurus that's mostly special but has Hammer Arm just for Blissey, you might consider adding 116 attack EVs just to 2-hit KO Blissey. Optimizing speed. What's different about speed from other stats is that it really doesn't matter if you're a million points ahead or just one. The only thing that matters is if you're faster or slower. This means that it's often a good idea simply to maximize speed. You don't always have to in order to get the desired result. A good question to ask is, what do I want to outspeed? For example, Infernape is pretty fast, but by adding all 252 speed EVs, you don't actually get much benefit out of those last few EVs since you're not really outspeeding anything. A better idea is to give it exactly 329 speed, which is just enough to outspeed everything with base 100 speed: Salamence, Mew, Jirachi, Ergomoth, and a few other things. Yes, you're giving up the ability to outspeed other Infernapes, or at least speed tie with them, but you save quite a few EVs, which could be more useful if they were on, say, your attacks. Another consequence of the 1 point faster is still faster property of speed is that many slower Pokemon can benefit from just a few speed EVs. For example, many people have Tyranitar with absolutely no speed. If you have a Swampert on your team, normally you are slower by 2 points. This is rather unfortunate since a Tyranitar just barely outspeeds and can often win a fight like that. However, if you invest just 12 speed EVs into Swampert, you can outspeed enemy Tyranitars. If you put just 4 speed EVs into a bulky Celebi, it can suddenly outspeed bulky Mews, Tentacruels, Zapdos, and other base 100 Pokemon that don't run any speed. Also, there are some times when speed is simply a bad thing. When you're using Trick Room, Gyro Ball, Baton Pass, U-Turn, or Volt Switch, and you want to the incoming Pokemon not to take any damage, it's important to minimize speed by giving it a minus speed nature, 0 speed EVs, and 0 speed IVs. Optimizing defenses. This one can get a little complicated, so I'll only cover the basics here. Basically, the damage you take from any given attack is inversely proportional to the product of your total hit points and the defense stat corresponding to the incoming attack. Okay, so that was a little cryptic. But basically, if you want to maximize your defense against physical attacks, you'll get your most out of your EVs by making your defense and hit point stats about the same. For a Pokemon like Skarmory, who naturally has lower HP than defense, this means putting all your EVs into hit points. If you want more physical bulk, you can put the rest of your EVs into defense, but you'll be suffering from diminishing returns. The EVs that you put into defense will be less effective than those EVs that you put into hit points. You'll still be improving your defense, but those EVs won't be doing quite as much good. With Pokemon like Hippowdon, who naturally have more hit points than defense, the situation is opposite. You want to put all your EVs into defense first. You can put EVs into hit points if you want, but again, you'll be suffering from diminishing returns. Those HP EVs won't be doing you quite as much good as the defense ones did. Of course, this rule only applies when you're trying to defend yourself against only one type of attack, physical or special. If you want to defend against both types of attacks, the ideal ratio between hit points, defense, and special defense is somewhere around 2 to 1 to 1. In almost all cases, this means maximizing your hit points before you touch anything else. There's a whole world of scenarios in between, like what happens if I want to tank this much from special attacks and this much from physical attacks, and I only have these amounts of EVs, and it makes a really great calculus problem to figure out exactly how you should give out your EVs. But for most of us, the best thing to do if you're in a situation like that is just to use a damage calculator, or get a friend to do some test hits in the simulator and see what's best. See how different EV spreads help you take damage against a variety of threats that you're planning to be facing with that Pokemon. One final word about natures. The boost given by natures is calculated after the boost given by EVs. What this means is that by giving EVs to the stat that your nature improves, you're actually getting 10% more out of those EVs. This means that you should pretty much always try to give extra EVs to the stat that you're having a plus nature in.